Hello everyone, this is Marie Blue Angel and I am playing Hecatomb today, the demo. So Hecatomb is from the Under the False Sky universe. I have played Blood Covered Snow on my channel officially, and I was involved in Re-Idealize, and I still haven't played it on my channel, but I've been meaning to. But I am happy that I am able to check out the demo for Hecatomb today. I don't really have an idea what is going on. I have some suspicions given the general themes I've seen before in Under the False Sky. And I'm just very excited to check it out, especially since this is an entry for Jose After Dark for this year. So, without further ado, let's just get into it and see exactly what is this story going on. There's two hands reaching for each other, and they seemingly are connected with some sort of thread or light. And I really like these colors on the title screen. So, let's just get started. I really don't know. I feel like I'm going to be super surprised. Oh, I have a new game. Can't even load it. And hello. Am I supposed to click? Am I supposed to be? Under the False Sky, Hecatomb. A young woman cautiously ventured into a sterile cylindrical room, lit only by the dim blue light emanating from the aquarium walls. Ooh, aquarium. She never imagined that stepping into this chamber would be this easy. The chamber that housed the monster who was to blame for the untimely deaths of so many innocent people. It was almost too easy. A lone bed loomed in the center of the vast room. Only the silken white drapes, reminiscent of the full moon in the aquarium's soft light, stopped her from seeing what or who was on it. Okay, Joseph. I don't know if the voice is loud enough, because I always have to turn down my music. So we're gonna put the voice higher up, and hopefully that doesn't. That's not too bad. Okay. Okay, so this is Noah looking for Joseph. Is Joseph dead? This was the person that she had been longing to see for so long. Yet she had never expected him to look so weak. His hair, void of any color, rivaled the length of his beard, which had been neatly tied with a ribbon. It was as though she was looking at a well-preserved corpse, eyes closed, trapped in an eternal slumber. So Joseph is not dead. Is such a pathetic creature really responsible for all the pain and misery mankind had to endure up to this point? A wave of doubt washes over her. For what reason had she come? Why had she even made the effort to sneak into this place? What was the point of ending a life already teetering on the brink? Who sought this justice? I do remember a point here that I saw on the game page, is that this is a prequel to a whole bunch of a prequel to the main story, which the main story hasn't been done just yet, or it's still ongoing, so I have no idea who these people are, but chaos is all I can assume is going to ensue in this game. Was it perhaps at the end of it all for her own conscience? Struck with bewilderment at her own thoughts, the young woman's gaze wandered from his face down to the many metallic wires leading from his body across the floor, extending in all directions. One could almost pity how desperate they were to keep a single person alive, even beyond their own natural lifespans. Like an old dog force-fed pills in the hopes that it might amuse its selfish master for a little longer. Perhaps it would even be an act of mercy to be put down. Come closer, Noah. I don't know what the voice needs to be. Despite having both his eyes and mouth closed, an exhausted voice, which undeniably belonged to the man in front of her, shattered the tense silence. Oh, that was a nice touch with like the movement and like the gasp. That was cool. Also like the breakup of like who we're looking at and who our person is here. The sound pierced her ears and reached deep into her core, sending a nauseating chill running rampant through her body. Just how did the man know her name? She had no memory of ever meeting him before. But then... Ignoring all the warning signals her head was trying to send out, her body stepped closer to the bed, as if being guided by an unforeseen force. I'm making up words. An unseen force. Only a few centimeters separated her trembling knees from the cold metallic bed frame. You truly do have her eyes. Who?
What?
What are you talking about? Your mother, maybe? Or I'm assuming. I can never forget this magnificent bright blue. These eyes he's talking about don't belong to me. They were never mine. Can we steal eyes, or people can use other people's eyes in this universe? I guess. I don't know why I'm shocked. Okay. It's really not the most shocking thing in this universe. Okay. A heavy lump tightened her throat. She never wanted to bear these cursed eyes, to carry the responsibility on her shoulders. All she wanted was... Say, how much value can one life have?
Huh?
Me. The man's question was so sudden that it took her a few minutes to realize that what exactly he was trying to convey.
Well...
Every life is equally valuable, of course. Is that so? Then please tell me, little Noah, if you had to sacrifice one life to save the lives of thousands, if not millions of people, would you do it?
What's the point?
What are you trying to prove by asking me this? All this questioning was slowly making the young woman's blood boil. She hadn't come here for a philosophical debate. She came here to... Interesting. Let me rephrase my question. Would you willingly give your own life to save those of thousands of others, even if it meant leaving your loved ones behind?
Yes!
Oh, quick answer. For a brief moment, the chamber flooded with an uncomfortably stifling sense of calm. However, just as she was about to confront the slumbering man in front of her, her voice was muffled by loud, rough laughter. Was he mocking her?
Huh?
What's so funny? It's interesting indeed. You resemble her so much, yet you don't have a single drop of blood in her blood in you. No, that's not entirely correct. After all, your eyes are the best evidence of her existence within you. Who are we talking about? I'm curious.
What?
Same girl. What was he talking about? Was this the delusional rambling of a senile old man? Her soul. Oh, how I would love to see her again. My precious Ash. Her smile, so sincere and warm that even my meager, cold heart got to experience what love could feel like. Okay, keep that in mind, Ash. But in the end, it was her candid heart, that naive warmth, that weakness that proved to be her ruin. Why did I only realize far too late that I truly had those feelings for you? A reoccurring theme in this universe. All the heartache, none of the happiness. I'm so tired. Can't we take a break for just a few minutes? We've been walking for over 2 hours now. Ooh, love the outfit and the hair. I have to agree with Candace. I can't go on any longer. Okay, love the green, love the different colors. The group, which consisted mainly of researchers, was barely able to stand after 2 hours of hiking through the wide, treacherous forest. I mean, 2 hours is a lot. The relentless sun towered overhead as they came to a halt in a wide clearing. The researchers' heads turned towards their guide, a stern-looking woman dressed in military attire. Fine, but only for 20 minutes tops. This time I'd like to be back at camp before sunset. Oh, love it. This lady's in charge. After hearing those long-awaited words, everyone present sighed in relief, almost simultaneously. Their heavy bags full of provisions and research equipment fell to the ground. One of the researchers was standing slightly apart from the rest of the group, his gaze somewhat trance-like, fixed on the cloudy sky. Hello? However, the enormous shadow that rose above him, blocking his view, forced him back to reality.
Hey.
Hey, Joseph, you good?
Yes.
Okay, so this is Joseph from earlier, who met... Oh my god, I already forgot the character name that we saw at the beginning of this. So this is I'm assuming this is like, back to the past. This whole story thing. Ooh, okay. Interesting. Yes. Everything's fine. Is there something in the sky? His counterpart leaned his head back, shielding his eyes from the sun's bright rays with his large hands as he tried to follow Joseph's gaze. So sorry. No. I just happened to notice that the sky is very clear today. That's all. Oh, is that so? These voices are gonna sound the same. There's so many. Anyway, you should come and sit down. I'm going to join the others. Joseph followed suit as the larger man returned to the rest of the group. These backgrounds look familiar. He let his gaze wander briefly over the group. Malachi, his colleague and former college classmate, had cozied up next to their stern-faced guide. Rachel's services had been offered by the local mercenary company to help the explorers find their way around the unfamiliar region, and to prevent them from entering unauthorized areas. The loud groan of the otherwise lively Candace diverted Joseph's... I don't know why it's hard for me to say Joseph's. Okay, whatever. Joey. Can I call him Joey? Joe's attention to the rock on which the much younger woman was cozily stretching her entire body. I mean, it stretches good after walking a lot. This feels so good. I love a good stretch. Don't get too comfortable. Rachel said that we will be back on our feet in 20 minutes.
Right.
Yeah, I know. He watched as the older blonde scientist sighed heavily and shook her head. She typically kept her emotions hidden behind a sturdy wall, striking fear into the hearts of even the strongest men with a single glance. However, her eyes were surprisingly soft as she looked down at her young colleague. As soon as her eyes met Joe's, he could clearly see her eyebrows twitch. She immediately looked away and began to pull lunchboxes out of her bag. Ooh, is it lunchtime?
Sis!
I'm gonna say, they look so alike. They're literally even wearing similar colored, outerwear. Is there anything I can help with you, sis? I can help with you? Help you with... I can't read right now. Okay.
No.
Hilla. Forgive my American pronunciations. Had he done something wrong? But he quickly dismissed the thought as Hilla handed him a lunchbox. Eat. The middle box she had brusquely pressed into his hand was almost as cold as the tense expression that adorned her pale face. Everything okay with you two? Why don't you join us, then we can all eat together.
Yes.
Yes, you're right. Joseph could see his sister's facial features instantly lose tension. With one last glare in his direction, she stepped away and sat down on the rock next to Candace, who had made room for her beforehand. To avoid having to endure the nosy looks of his comrades, he followed his sister's example and sat down between Malachi and the young Phineas, who greeted him with a broad smile. Interesting that the corners of his mouth don't stiffen if he's always got them curled up like that. A little like cat smile. It's cute. Joseph opened the lid of his lunchbox, which contained plain sandwiches and some sliced fruit. Although he was reluctant to admit it, an unpleasant fatigue started to make itself present in his legs. Do you think we'll be able to find anything at all? I mean, we've been walking the woods for weeks now, with nothing to show for it. Every sample we've collected has been utterly useless. It feels like we are looking for a needle in a haystack. Silence fell over the group. For a moment, none of those present knew how to answer. After all, she had said precisely what every single one of them had already been thinking.
Well...
We are all here because we agreed to help out this region. Imagine that all these mysterious deaths, the catastrophes, happened to our hometowns. Wouldn't you also want as many capable people as possible to help? ... At least, that's what I think. Malachi wasn't wrong. Who wouldn't do anything to keep their loved ones safe?
Man...
Sorry, I didn't mean to sound so harsh. Anyway, it's not all doom and gloom. We might even find something completely undiscovered. After all, 25% of this forest is still unknown. Imagine, we save lives and still find something to brag to our colleagues about. Always a scientist. That's such a scientist mindset. Aside from Rachel, they all knew each other from previous research projects. Cool. When there was a call for scientists to help stabilize a crisis situation in a somewhat remote region of the country, they decided to take part in the expeditions together as volunteers. Unpredictable natural disasters had been occurring with increasing frequency over the past month, terrorizing the residents. Heavy rainfall that flooded valleys, tornadoes which had never been reported in the area before, sudden droughts leading to forest fires at the outer layer of the forest bordering the region. And worst of all, one by one the residents became mysteriously ill. At first the sickness wasn't taken too seriously, as the symptoms were the same as the common flu. But no matter what medication was used, the patient's conditions did not improve. And as the disease progressed, the affected person's skin gradually turned black. Oh, that's serious. All of it. It slowly crept up the fingers before spreading across the whole body. The images of those who had succumbed to it swept through Joe's mind like a blaze. The way the dark color had burned into the skin of victims like pitch, the sunken cheekbones. Okay. As though they were burnt from the inside out, all life sucked out of their bodies. That disease. I've never seen anything like it before.
Right.
That's right. You were the only one who got to see all the patients and corpses. That must have been terrible. Was it really? They were all researchers, so trivialities should hardly bother them. Dead bodies were just biological specimen after all. I mean, you could get more used to it, but saying that is a little seemingly like Joseph, our Joe guy, is desensitized to it all. But there is something that bothers me. Given that it's likely a viral infection, I'm surprised that it's not contagious.
What?
What are you talking about? A good 3/4 of the region is affected by the virus. Had she even bothered to look into the current situation? Joseph knew that her field of research, just like Hilla, was ecology, while his specialization was immunology and microbiology. But still, how could someone be so uninformed? The first people affected, the patient zeros, if you wish, didn't know each other. They even lived in completely different places and had no other connections. Furthermore, none of their direct relatives were initially infected. But let's be real, what exactly do you think could have caused this outbreak? As a botanist, I don't know much about human biology, but this sudden rise of infected people is basically an epidemic.
Yes.
And if we don't find the cause of this soon, who knows what will happen to the world as we know it. Once again, an uncomfortable silence fell over the group, leaving everyone struggling with their own thoughts and fears. All of them tried to not let themselves be dragged along by the tide of apocalyptic visions of the future. Joe's attention turned to the bread and sliced fruit in his lunchbox, completely untouched. Keep your strength, Joe. I don't want to kill the mood here, but we should start getting back on track. What? The break is already over? We've only just sat down. Well, you should have talked less and eaten more.
Man.
Joseph quickly closed his lunchbox and handed it to his sister, who was in the process of taking everyone else's boxes and putting them back in her bag. For a moment, he could see her thin lips pressed together, as her eyes narrowed and her nostrils flared slightly.
Oh.
Do I see disappointment?
No.
What? No. The look on her face vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving only her usual distant and unemotional expression.
Well.
Well then. The young researcher squatted down to his bag, which was filled with a variety of equipment, including his notebook, cotton swabs, and plastic vials. Just as he was about to stand up, however, something flashed over the edge of his glasses. It darted into the lush green thicket at the edge of the clearing.
Huh?
Hey,
What's wrong, Joseph? Nothing. I just thought I saw something. I'll go and check. The curiosity for the unknown overtook his body. Judging by the reflection, it must have been something metallic. But why was it here so deep in the forest? But before he could take another step closer to the object of his desire, he felt the earth beneath his left foot collapse abruptly. Goodness. As though he had stepped on a pressure plate.
Joseph?
Don't move.
Um...
Hey guys, everything okay?
Wait!
I said don't! Before he could finish his sentence, however, the earth gave way entirely beneath his feet, my goodness. Almost like it was clinging to him in a tight embrace, the ground swallowed him and the rest of his companions into its endless depths. Oh. All of us? And enveloped them in its comforting, familiar darkness. Water. It was only with great difficulty that the young Candace was able to get herself to the surface of the wide lake. Just a few moments ago, she was with Hilla and the rest of her research crew standing in a clearing in the vast forest. Then suddenly the ground beneath their feet collapsed, plunging them into the abyss. Only a few seconds later, her companions also made it to the surface. Frantically, she searched for the sparkling golden eyes that belonged to Hilla. Her body was enveloped in a sense of relief as soon as their eyes met, and she knew the feeling was mutual. She's fine, thank goodness. Let's swim ashore. We shouldn't stay in unfamiliar waters any longer than absolutely necessary. I feel like Malachi's voice is just all over the place for me, but whatever. So sorry. Her colleague gestured past her and towards a stony elevation with a passageway shrouded in darkness not far from it.
Right.
With her goal in sight, she began to swim through the cold, crystal-clear water. Her soaked clothes and heavy backpack didn't make it easy for the slender woman to pull herself out of the water and onto the chilly rock. With heavy breaths, she flopped onto her back and stared up at the towering cave ceiling. A shimmering blue color seemed to reflect off of it, but Candace didn't have the energy to ponder on it. There was something else that was bothering her even more. I'm normally not against the occasional adventure, but where the hell are we? Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed her companions pulling themselves ashore, one after another, and collapsing to the ground.
Candace?
Are you okay, Candace?
Yes.
I think I am. She could feel a soft hand carefully wrap itself around her left hand and gently stroke the back of it with its thumb. The warmth that gradually rose in her cheeks was a welcome distraction from the cold that crept through her soaked clothes. I mean, Freddie called it from the last scene. Those two definitely have feelings. If not already together, they definitely have feelings for each other, obviously. Closing her eyes, she focused on her heartbeat, which became louder and stronger with every breath she took. For just a few minutes, which felt like an eternity to Candace, the group lay side by side, each trying to individually process the predicament that they had fallen into.
Well...
We're lucky that we're still alive.
Man.
Yes, but what was that?
Weird.
I don't know. I've never seen such a sinkhole before, if you could even call it that. Sinkholes aren't that rare. It may be that the suberosion eroded the ceiling of this cave, causing it to collapse. A tense silence fell over the group again, the thought of what might happen if this lake hadn't been here to suffocate them. Seemed to suffocate them, rather. And how do we get out of here now? What if there's no way out? Candace wanted to scream these words, but she felt Hilla's grip around her hand grow tighter. Worried, she turned her head towards the older woman, yet Hilla merely gazed at the ceiling without a trace of any emotion on her face.
What?
What is that? Hey guys, look! Phineas was the first to make an effort to get up, but once he had laboriously pulled his torso upright, he paused. His eyes were wide open. As Candace looked over to him, she recognized the same blue sparkle in the reflection of his glasses that she had seen prior on the cave ceiling.
What?
Lots of whats? Just then Malachi straightened up next to her. He must have been able to see what Phineas had been talking about, as he paused for a moment before abruptly jumping up. One by one, the others followed Phineas's example until Candace finally managed to sit up slowly, with a painfully stiff back.
What?
Everyone's just saying, what? We need to know. What is the reveal? A person? Oh. Okay. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, but things are starting to click in place for me. What she saw before her was something that defied all human comprehension. Nothing she had learned in her studies could have prepared her for such a sight. At the center of the wide, clear lake was a crystal. It was impossibly huge, towering above them. She had to bend her head back to be able to see it in its entirety. It shone in a soft blue color, gently illuminating the ceiling and leaving a dancing shimmer on the surface of the water. It cast just enough light for the group to orient themselves. But what is that? Around the crystal, she spotted dozens of small flickering lights, which hovered around it like wandering will-o'-wisps. Do any of you see those lights? Are those will-o'-the-wisps? Will-o'-the-wisps? Question mark.
Huh?
Where? I don't see anything.
Right.
All I can see is that gigantic crystal. There's no way there could be something like that here. After all, we're not in a swamp. No, these couldn't be will-o'-wisps. Wisps. But why? What were they then? She couldn't be hallucinating them, could she?
Candace.
Are you sure you are all right? Are you feeling dizzy or nauseous? Can you follow my finger with your eyes? Amid the murky darkness of the cave, Candace watched as her counterpart moved her finger back and forth mere centimeters before her eyes. Maintaining her focus on the finger while being bombarded with questions proved to be quite a challenge, however. And although, as was often the case, her colleague's facial expression didn't change, Candace could clearly hear the concern in her voice. No, I feel... But before she could finish her sentence, she was interrupted by Malachi, who began to fiercely search through his bag. What are you doing?
Oh my God.
This is the discovery of the decade, no, of the century, or even of the millennium. Come and help me. Visibly confused, the group exchanged puzzled looks amongst themselves. Help with what?
Well...
With taking the samples, of course. What else? First the sinkhole, then this. In a surge of euphoria that seemed to surpass any fear that had previously ruled over him, he gestured towards the crystal before looking up at the rest of them. His expression was full of determination. If that's not a sign, I don't know what is. Perhaps this is the cause of the virus, or the unusual weather phenomena. He excitedly pressed various vials and containers into the hands of the slightly overwhelmed Rachel. To Candace's surprise, the equipment was only wet, not broken. Why don't we help? A slight pat on her shoulder made Candace look up at Hilla. The older woman nodded in the direction of the helpless Rachel and the overzealous Malachi.
Okay.
Candace and Phineas helped Rachel by taking some of the sample containers, which the guide could barely balance in her arms any longer.
Wait.
And what exactly should we collect?
Ah.
Anything you think would be useful to help us in our research.
Oh.
Okay. With a heavy sigh, the student looked around for a moment before having his sights set on something, leaving the group and turning his attention to the cave wall. And what should I... The mercenary woman looked from the containers in her arms to the enthusiastic researcher and back again, causing him to grin even more. Come on, I'll show you. He reached for her unoccupied hand to guide her to the shore, keeping his focus fixed on the water. How adorable. Ooh. Candace caught herself glancing at Hilla. In the meantime, the older woman had also separated herself from the group and was kneeling by the dark passageway. As though she sensed her lover's eyes on her, Hilla turned her head in Candace's direction and gracefully pointed to the container in the younger researcher's hand. And be careful. The stones are quite slippery since they're wet. Yeah. Okay. But where should she start? What exactly was worth collecting? The flat rock platform they stood on wasn't particularly large. It extended to the cave walls on either side, yet it was still quite narrow. There were a couple of isolated rocks sticking out of the water, but she doubted she could. Just as she was about to abandon the idea, Joseph rushed past her and jumped onto the one of those exact rocks. Hello? With his arms wide open, he managed to find his footing without much trouble, almost as if he were a complete natural, not even a strand of hair out of place. She wanted to call out to him, but she wasn't sure whether she wanted to warn or follow him, so she paused and watched him with a strange sense of curiosity. It was interesting that although he and Hilla were siblings and looked alike, on the inside they were as different as chalk and cheese. Perhaps it was the fact that the two were 10 years apart, down to the exact month, that contributed to the stark contrast in their personalities. It felt as if it had happened only yesterday when Dr. Hilla Altaway had visited their school and presented a lecture on Gauss's law to Candace's middle school class. It was that day, at just 14 years old, that Candace discovered her love for ecology and her admiration for the cold scientist. Did she even recognize her? Even back then, Hilla had always had this distant expression, as if she wanted to keep the whole world at bay, never letting anyone see her vulnerable side. I wonder if she knows that I wanted to become a researcher because of her. Probably not. Her gaze shifted between Joseph, who was now kneeling on the rock, fishing for something in the water, to Hilla with her beautiful silken hair tied in a tight ponytail, such a radiant gold that it could rival the sun. Stop looking at me and work, Candace. Yes. Caught red-handed, she hastily averted her gaze and turned back to face Joseph, who had since continued on his way to a stone further from the shore. His eyes, deep in a trance, were locked on the huge crystal at the center of the lake. As the dim light fell on his face, for the first time, Candace thought that Joseph strongly resembled his sister. So, lost in thought, with his facial muscles relaxed, it looked like his mind had abandoned his body completely. She had never seen such an expression on his face before. Joseph, what are you doing? He didn't react. She looked down at the stones and swallowed. Would she be able to do it with a good run-up? What? Where? Do you jump somewhere? As so often, young Candace let her curiosity and impulsive thoughts get the better of her, and just also as often, she had learned the consequences of her own recklessness the hard way. She had underestimated how slippery the stones really were. Joseph had made the landing look so easy. She had painfully hit her back, on the hard rock beneath her, her right leg cracking against the stone as she fell. Deep down, she wanted to burst out crying and screaming. However, she managed to bite her lower lip and focus on taking deep breaths.
No!
Candace! My goodness. Hilla's shaky cries were barely audible through the loud pounding of her heart. The light scent of lavender gently tickled her nose, and two cold yet soft hands embraced her cheeks, supporting her head. Hilla! Simply saying her name sent a throbbing pain through Candace's head. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of 3 blurry silhouettes hurrying towards her, following the commotion. What have you done? Despite the excruciating pain, Candace could discern a tremor in her partner's voice. Hilla's eyes were fixed straight ahead, not on her.
Huh?
What are you talking about? Is she talking to Joseph?
Hey.
Hey, sis. I didn't do anything.
Wait.
Why are you accusing Joseph, Hilla? Hey, he really didn't do anything. I just slipped. It's my fault. Despite her attempts to calm Hilla, the older woman's eyes remained glued to her brother for quite a while. Her gaze tensed and narrowed before she turned back to Candace.
I see.
I told you to be careful. You're welcome to scold her all you want, but first we should take her to a flat surface. She could feel a pair of broad, strong arms under her waist and the back of her knees, lifting her gently into the air.
Hey.
It's okay. It's just me. Gradually, her wet back peeled away from the cold stone like an old bandage separating from scarred flesh. Ooh, nice imagery. Ugh. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be careful. Carrying her like a flower that could lose its petals at any moment, he cradled her in his arms as he made his way towards the shore.
Hey.
Don't be too rough with her. She's badly hurt.
Yes.
I know. An unbearable heat crept over Candace's face when the mercenary gently laid the injured researcher on the ground. Her eyes began to burn. How she wished she were somewhere else, anywhere where she wasn't the object of pity in everyone's eyes. Despite the pain coursing through her body, she couldn't help but cover her face with her upper arm. Well, how's she going to complete the mission? Or this this researcher endeavor that we're doing? I don't know.
Listen.
This isn't good. Look.
Fuck.
Oh, fuck me. A searing pain shot through Candace's leg like a nail, piercing deeper and deeper into her left shin, into her bone, twisting into her flesh and tormenting her with its relentless assault.
Hey.
In a flash, Rachel appeared before her, eyes wide open. Candace felt a warm hand on her forehead like a soothing, calming blanket. Gliding down to cover her eyes and mouth, although the mercenary's grip was gentle, it remained firm. No matter how hard poor Candace tried, she could not escape her hold. Are you trying to reposition it? Just then, the pain in her leg intensified as if someone was using all their strength trying to snap it in two, but the unbearable pain was gone as quickly as it had come. All her pain was gone. The only thing she could feel was the thin residue of her tears which dampened Rachel's palm. It was over, and she was exhausted.
What?
What the hell are you doing?
Wait.
Look here. Due to the fall, she suffered an open fracture to her tibia. The only thing I can do here is stabilize her leg, but we need to get her out of here and back to camp as quickly as possible.
Listen.
Before that, we should clean and bandage the injury.
Wait.
Hey, hang on. What are you doing?
What?
What do you mean, what are you doing? What else should we tie it with? Don't worry, my top is pretty clean.
Man.
I didn't mean it like that. I will look for something we can use to splint her leg.
I
I can't guarantee that the water is clean, though. It's better than anything else we have. Rachel, can you lend me a hand here?
Yes.
What?
What the hell is this?
What?
How is this even possible? What's happening?
Wait.
Do you hear that?
Huh?
What? I don't hear. Hold it right there. Who's this? Resting his head against the cold, damp stone wall, Joseph let out a deep sigh. To his right sat a distraught Phineas, his trembling hands tucked into his jacket pockets, his feet nervously tapping the floor. And to his left was the door, an impenetrable array of cold steel pipes imprisoning them in this cell. What happened? It all happened so suddenly. Someone found you? The group was too preoccupied tending to the unconscious Candace to notice the armed men surrounding them. Their blades glistened menacingly in the blue light of the crystal, their eyes blazing with rage. The researchers didn't even have enough time to process their discovery. The discovery of the secret that the water held within. Hidden within. With tired eyes, Joseph looked at his sister. Hilla was holding Candace's hand in hers while gently stroking the girl's face to brush the hair out of her eyes. Her head rested on Hilla's lap, her lover's coat wrapped tightly around her body. She still hadn't wakened from her deep slumber. With her eyes and mouth closed, the girl was so quiet, almost tolerable. But that was irrelevant. What really interested him was her left shin. Just a few hours ago, her leg was a mess of torn flesh and exposed bone. Now, it was completely unscathed. Maybe the water with the crystal, maybe has healing abilities or properties. But how is that possible? What biological explanation is there to explain how just a few drops of water can so easily reverse such a serious injury?
Ahem.
Joseph, it's not nice to stare at people, especially if they're unconscious. Oh. He averted his gaze and landed on Malachi, whose full attention was centered on the mercenary. Those glances, those expressions, that his university friend offered only to this woman confused Joseph. For him, it was almost a greater mystery than the secret of this miracle water.
Hey.
Hey, you don't look so good, Ray. He tried to reach out to her, only for her to jerk back, turning her head away so that even Joseph couldn't read her face.
It's just...
It seems we're in one of those prohibited areas.
Huh?
What do you mean? She fell silent. Joseph wasn't sure what was going through that woman's mind. What was she thinking about? What she was considering, what response Malachi would find satisfactory. He waited for the mercenary to respond, but her silence quickly wore down his patience. Do you remember the areas on the map highlighted in red? Apparently, we've strayed far from our route and walked straight into one of those zones.
No.
That's not true. We were very close to one of those zones, but I thought we were still in the area we had been assigned to. Yet...
Wait.
Ray, take a deep breath. Joe isn't accusing you of anything. Please start from the very beginning. She turned her gaze back to the group. In the soft flicker of the torches, Joseph studied her expression. The furrowed brows, the limp eyelids, the unfocused pupils, the anxious way she chewed her lower lip.
Well...
There is a group of people who live here in the forest.
Wait.
What are you implying? Are they the ones who threw us in here? She nodded.
Yes.
Far from normal civilization, the village has existed in this forest for centuries. They function like a separate state. They have their own customs and laws. No one has ever seen them, yet their existence is known throughout the region. Every so often, foolish individuals ignore the numerous warnings and restrictions, venturing into this forbidden zone. Joseph could swear that the air around him had become thinner, making it difficult for him to breathe, threatening to cut off his airways. Did he also not see Candace earlier, or was he completely ignoring her before the whole, breaking her shin and things? I don't know. What an unpleasant feeling. And what happened to those people?
Well...
All that made it back were their heads. Oh, what?
Oh, God!
They can't do that. That's illegal. We're going to die. How is this allowed? Oh, God. Oh, God, oh, God. If he continues crying like that, we'll be dead quicker than he'd like.
Jeez.
I am also not that familiar with local law. How could I be? Some centuries ago, government officials made a pact with the village that nobody, under any circumstances, may set foot in the village, or even anywhere close to it. For those of us who grew up in the area, it's like a law. Break it, and you'll be punished without mercy, even if it costs you your life.
Damn!
But why? That doesn't sound right. People who live disconnected from our society, with their own laws, that surely must attract attention. Maybe for you outsiders, but for us, it's normal. People like me, who were born in the region, rarely move away. This rule's ingrained in our upbringing, and we've learned to accept it as a fact of life. It was not unusual for a region to exist independently and to not participate in foreign affairs, but for it to be completely unknown and isolated was a completely different story. The loud creak and slam of a metal door made the group flinch. Joseph's companions exchanged frantic looks. But to the young researcher's surprise, the steps that followed were not heavy. No, they were light, almost gentle, as if mindful of the ground beneath. The graceful silhouette of a woman emerged from the shadows. With each step she took closer to the gate, the darkness around her receded. In the dim light of the blazing torches, the figure slowly came into focus. Her smooth skin shimmered like copper in the light. Her thick ebony hair fell softly around her face and over her slender shoulders, her bangs lightly tickling her eyelashes. And her eyes. They shone as blue and bright as a clear summer sky. They were strikingly different from the color of her skin and her hair, that Joseph almost thought they were actually shining towards him. However, that would be biologically impossible, wouldn't it? He could have sworn he had seen this color somewhere before.
Hey.
Hello. Just like the men who had captured them, the young woman was able to speak their language, but in contrast to the warrior's gruff speech, her voice was much gentler, almost melodic. She was holding a tray. On it, she balanced a plate with several small loaves of bread and a large bowl with some kind of soup. None of his companions dared to say a word. Whether it was out of fear or mistrust, he couldn't tell from their expressions.
Hey.
Good day. He deliberately raised his voice, softening his inflections so he wouldn't come off as hostile or dismissive. After all, people don't appreciate it when you act like a jerk when you first meet them. Right? That's the intonation I wanted. Not sure whether he had gone too far, he studied her soft features for a reaction. Oh. He watched as the corner of her mouth and her eyebrows rose slightly, and her shimmering eyes met his. That look. It reminded him of something. A distant memory. A strangely alien yet familiar pulsation permeated his chest. His heart squeezed painfully for a few seconds, concerning, before slowly releasing him from its grip. Were his muscles strained? Yes, that had to be it. Nothing else. Maybe some sort of instant connection or linkage. We don't know yet. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm really sorry that you guys are in this situation. Well, the stranger knelt on the ground and opened a small hatch at the bottom of the cell door. Her fingers were small and slender, each movement as careful and delicate as if she were weaving silk. Carefully, she pushed the tray of food through the hatch, fearing the slightest bump might cause the soup to spill. I brought you something to eat. You've been here for a few hours already. Surely you must be hungry. Silence fell over the group once again. No one dared to say anything to the woman as they all desperately tried to avert their eyes from the tray, afraid it would jump at them if they even dared to look at it. It was only bread and soup. What could be so bad about that?
Wait.
Hey, Joseph. In what Joseph could only describe as a knee-jerk reaction, he had reached for one of the loaves and, without thinking about it, torn off a small piece to dip in the soup.
What?
What is it?
Well...
What if the food is poisoned? Were his colleagues really that stupid? He would have expected this kind of question from Candace or Phineas, but not from Malachi. Wasn't it obvious? No, of course it isn't poison. How can you be so sure? And he ate it. Oh God, Joseph, spit it back out. Come on, otherwise...
Hey.
I'm fine. It even tastes pretty good. It tasted bland, as if he had dipped the bread in plain water. Stale and gooey, and yet it enveloped the young researcher with a pleasant warmth. A long-forgotten memory slowly focused itself into his consciousness. The gentle arms of a woman who pulled his small body close, obsessively wanting to force a sense of security and the protection on him. That warmth. Of course the food is not poisoned. I tried really hard to cook this meal. The woman's voice rose, trembling slightly.
Well.
I like it. What did you...
Thank you.
Really? I'm so relieved. Yes, really. Thank you for your efforts. He could feel the eyes of his comrades on him, how they dug deep into his flesh, causing his shoulder muscles to cramp. However, this uncomfortable feeling didn't last long. Joseph was captivated by her, particularly her smile, which shone on him like a sun fighting through relentless clouds.
Hey.
What's your name?
My
name? Oh, it's Asherah.
Ashera.
Ashera. Ashera. But if that's too long or hard to pronounce, you can call me Ash. Ash. My name is Joseph. Oh, and this is my older sister, Hilla.
Joseph.
Paying no heed to his sister's warning, he gestured his hand down to the next person. The unconscious girl on her lap is Candace. Then we have Phineas here to my left. That man's name is Malachi, and the woman next to him is our guide, Rachel. I'm pleased to make your acquaintance. Your acquaintance? Isn't that a little too cruel?
Wait!
Rachel, please.
Right.
It feels like a lion playing with its prey before it tears it apart. I forgot the voice that I used, so sorry. What's the point of exchanging pleasantries if we'll end up losing our heads anyways? Despite the direct tone and harshness of the mercenary's voice, Joseph noticed her shivering fingers clutched tightly at her side. Fear. But what was the woman so afraid of? The group's impending death?
I'm sorry.
The corners of the girl's mouth twitched as if she was trying with all her might to keep that delicate smile on her lips.
Hey.
It's not your fault we're in this situation. Right, Rachel? This all seems to be just a big misunderstanding. You see, we are scientists who have come from far beyond this region to help deal with a crisis.
Huh?
A crisis? What are you talking about?
Huh.
Have you not noticed the strange changes in the weather? The floods, the forest fires? Has no one in your village suddenly fallen ill and died?
I see.
In any case, we came to help, and when we came to investigate the forest, the ground suddenly collapsed beneath our feet and we fell into that cave. The fact that we came across that crystal, let alone your territory, is pure coincidence.
Wait.
So you mean us no harm? You just happened to be here by chance while trying to help other people.
Yes!
She took a step back from the bars which separated them, her gaze fixed on her thumbs circling each other. For a moment, none of them said a word, their eyes merely locking on Ashera, as if she was the goddess who could decide the fate of the 6 castaways.
Ah!
That's it. Her head jerked up, startling poor Phineas. He resembled a mouse cornered by a cat, so shaky and small.
What?
What was that?
I got it!
Please be patient for just a little longer. I'll be right back. Before any of the prisoners could say anything, the girl had turned her back on them and quickly disappeared into the shadows of the corridor, leaving 5 puzzled faces behind.
No.
Okay, I know that these scenes can get pretty long, so I'm gonna stop it right here. I just love that we ended on a no. I feel like Ashura went to go ask whoever is in charge, whoever this person is, for, to explain the situation, permission to, release the prisoners. But it seems like Ashura was not successful. I'm very much enjoying the story so far. I'm loving all the details. Thank you for bearing with me and my just actual cacophony of all the voices. When everyone speaks together, I'm like, okay, cool. I don't know what voice I'm doing right now. It helps with having the partial voice acting because it reminds me of what I was aiming for, because I'm just trying to, target a similar pitch to the voice actor who's doing the character, who's voicing the character rather. Anyways, hopefully you have enjoyed seeing a bit of Hecatomb, and that you also look forward to seeing what else will happen, because I am. And if you have enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more of Hecatomb as well as other visual novels. I would also like to say that I'm close to 150 subscribers, so if you feel particularly tempted to subscribe, I'd be very thankful. I can't believe many of you watch some of my videos and things, and I appreciate every single one of you, and I love interacting in the comments and things. Anyways, I'm gonna cut the video here. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.